Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's Game Developer webinar, How Predictive Analytics Drives Mobile Conversions and Boosts Revenue, sponsored by Pecan and broadcast by Informa. I'm Alyssa McAloon. I'm the editor-in-chief over at Game Developer, and I'll be your moderator today. We just have a few announcements before we begin. The webinar is designed to be interactive. There's a dock of widgets at the bottom of your screen that will allow you to learn about today's speakers, download resources, share this webinar via your social media outlets, and participate in the Q&A session that takes place at the end of our presentation. The slides will advance automatically throughout the event. You may also download a copy of the slides via the resources widget. Toward the end of our webinar, we'll ask you to complete our survey found on the right-hand side of your screen. Please take a minute to fill this out before leaving us today, as your feedback will provide us with valuable information on how we can improve future events. Lastly, if you are experiencing any technical problems, please click on the help widget found at the bottom of your screen, or type your issue into the Q&A area, and we'll be glad to offer some one-on-one assistance. Now on to our presentation for today, How Predictive Analytics Drives Mobile Conversions and Boosts Revenue. I'll hand things over to Eran Yorkovsky, VP of Digital Solutions at Pecan, to introduce today's panel. Take it away, Eran.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm super excited about this day. One, because it's the first webinar that we're doing with a series of future webinars that we're planning. But more than that, because of the amazing panel that we have here. So stay tuned, it's going to be exciting. We're going to focus today on how predictive analytics drives mobile conversions and boosts revenue. We have some packed agenda. We're going to talk about what is predictive analytics. We're going to share about trends and things that we're seeing in the market. And we're going to talk about how predictive analytics could actually help your game perform better. Now, to the best part, presenting the group of people that are joining me today. Why can't I see the slide? Can you see the slide? Neta, Vitar?
We see it, yeah.
Okay, it's black on my end. But very excited. We have here with us Eviatar Livni, the Senior Director of Marketing Tech at SciPlay. I've been working with Eviatar in the last couple of years, I could say already, and it's been very exciting for me to see Eviatar pushing the boundaries of ad tech and marketing on a daily basis. Hopefully we can get a bit of that today. We also have with us here today Neta Constantin, which is the marketing science partner for gaming at Meta. I've been working with Neta on the same team for a while, and I have to say, I never seen someone that is so passionate about pushing more game developers into sophisticated measurement solutions and incorporating data science in the day-to-day. So very happy to have Neta with us. Also, we have Slava Modric, the apps and games industry manager at Google. Slava have been working with some of the largest game developers in the world and helping them on building better, more efficient, and more effective marketing strategies. So I hope you're excited as I am about this session. Now, before we start, we're going to ask the audience here, if you have any experience in the world of predictive analytics, please fill in what have you done in this space. If you build a model, that's great. If you haven't, that's fine as well. Share this with us so we can see what the forum is interested in and what is their level of experience. Okay, we'll give a few seconds to everyone to fill their details. Okay. It's getting interesting. Okay, I still see people filling their answer, so we give 20 more seconds, so you still have an opportunity to to add your questions to the poll? Okay. Let's see the answers. So, first of all, the majority of the people haven't integrated predictive analytics into their game, which is interesting. Hopefully, by the time we end today's sessions, you could have kind of a better understanding where is the potential and what are the things that you should be trying. Excited to see that there's a good bunch of people that have integrated predictive lifetime value into their user acquisition efforts. And I see the second piece is around scan, which is also an interesting topic that we're gonna talk about today. So well done. I see we have some very diverse forum here. So hopefully everyone could get something out of this day. Cool. So before we start into kind of going into the details, I want to set the ground and make sure everyone knows what's predictive analytics. We see there's a good bunch of the people here that haven't integrated predictive analytics into their day today. So I'll keep it simple. What is predictive analytics? So every gaming company has their own kind of BI and descriptive approach where they are analyzing the data and looking at what happened in the past. Predictive analytics is using the same data, but instead of looking on what happened, predicting what is likely to happen. Okay? Instead of looking at which users have left the app, predicting, for example, which users are likely to leave the app, the game, in next week, for example. Okay? Instead of looking at LTV or ROI, day 1, day 2, day 7, predicting the lifetime value and the predictive ROI to the future, day 30, day 60, day 90. Okay? So this is the difference between descriptive and predictive, but I would say it's an even more important separation. When you're using your data in a descriptive approach, you are taking a very reactive approach to your data, looking at what happened. And by switching to the world of predictive analytics, you can be more proactive with your data, not waiting for things to happen, but acting before in a more proactively way. Okay, now, I've been meeting a lot of gaming companies at my time in Pecan and before, and a lot of companies feel that it might be too early for them to go into the world of predictive analytics. And I want to encourage you and make you kind of be more confident. You are more ready than you think you are. If you're a game developer, it means that you're already probably qualified to build predictive analytics with your data. You are all very data-driven. You're all managing your monetization and retention efforts using data. So you are in a very good setup to add another layer of predictive analytics. And the good news, there is automated predictive analytics technology out there. So hopefully we can talk about this more today. Okay, so the next piece, we're gonna move to our amazing panelists, and we're gonna start with some of the key questions that we have for today. Keep in mind, this is an open discussion. You can comment, you can ask questions along the way. So the first topic that we're going to cover is how can game developers use predictive analytics? So Slava, I hope you're ready. The first question goes to you. Amazing. So Slava, we've seen a lot of kind of changes, up and downs in the gaming market in the last 2 years or so. Would love to hear from kind of your point of view, working with many of the largest game developers. What are the key changes that you've seen?
That's a good one to start, right? Because there were so many. I think that you mentioned what I do in Google. I think I've been doing it for the past 5.5, almost 6 years. So I've been in gaming for, I think, since 2016. And I truly think that 2021 was the most pivotal year that we ever saw in terms of gaming, both for good and the bad, right? So the first question everyone had on their mind heading towards 2021 was, can we really sustain the high peaks of 2020, right? Enhanced by COVID, we saw explosion in the gaming market, and everyone was kind of curious, can it continue? So with the 8% growth that we saw in mobile gaming overall, the answer was definite yes. It's not only sustainable, it's also growing, right? So we saw that the appetite for mobile games from users all around the world and players all around the world is there, and it's there to stay. Obviously, after these two peaks that we experienced in 2020, 2021, some decline is expected. We already see in 2022, the beginning of the year, there is some stagnation, some decline in some of the categories. But again, we're in such high peak that it's acceptable, and I think we're still in a very, very high point. But together with this, we also experienced a lot of challenges during this year. Obviously, the biggest one, and you also already mentioned it, was the iOS ATT. I think that we saw a lot of movement around it, and obviously since the announcement till this actually happened during 2021, a lot of companies came to this point in time fearing what will happen. And to be honest, rightfully so, right? We saw every company from social casino to hyper casual, from the big companies to the small companies, kind of trying to figure out what they're doing. And during that time, we saw in the beginning of 2021 kind of peak in terms of marketing investment in iOS, and companies kind of tried to squeeze the lemon until the last moment. And then we saw a sudden drop. So this created a very interesting situation in which we saw a big change in iOS in terms of the marketing strategy and approach, which obviously shifted a lot of the budgets to Android and made the companies in one way or another adjust and change their marketing approach and their marketing strategy. So this was a very, very interesting year. I think the things that we saw coming from this change is, as I mentioned, because of the changes in iOS, and I'm sure Evyatar and Neta can elaborate more on that, and obviously you as well. We saw a lot of companies trying to adapt to the new reality of iOS, trying to do some things that will put them in an advantage versus the market. On the other side, because Android really exploded during this year, and obviously it created some fierce competition there, a lot of companies started to use more sophisticated products. And from my side in Google, there was an incredible rise in ROAS product, both for IEP clients and the ads-based monetization companies. And we see it work really well right now in Android. And of course, there was a lot of innovation in marketing as well, which the innovation actually comes from kind of trying to turn the wheel back and going towards more classical marketing, more branding, if you want, brandformance, as many companies call that, and a really sudden burst also in influencer marketing, which became a really big channel for a lot of companies. But I think to summarize, with these three changes that are happening, we're still kind of in the middle of that because it's still kind of evolving, right? And we expect more changes. There are rumors, right? What will happen, Apple, and so on. So I think we're kind of in the middle of this whole process. We do have much more experience. We do have much more knowledge right now, but it's still kind of an evolving situation and everyone's still trying to adapt. So I think this session is very, very interesting. And for me as well, very interesting what Evyatar and Neta have to say about how they see it evolving, how they see themselves in the middle of this whole situation.
Amazing. Thank you, Slava. We won't hold you for long because we're going to move to Evyatar. On the back of what Slava just mentioned, I know you guys have been kind of very innovative with your approach for ADD, and I would love to hear a bit of what you can tell us around how you have used predictive analytics as part of your iOS ATT approach.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I really like the topic of ATT and all the trouble that privacy makes for us as an advertiser. So the privacy framework Apple dropped on us introduced several issues. The big elephant in the room is basically campaign measurement. They kind of broke it, but the way we like to look at it in SciPlay is we always look forward in terms of what we can do. And we really worked a lot on how to utilize the SKA network and really really capitalize on it and use what it has and really gain an advantage when trying to buy there. So the issue with SKA network, and it's a big issue, is that there's some rigidness in SKA network. It's not very flexible, and there is a constant conflict between the amount of data we wish to gather to be able to measure things correctly and the partners that really want a fast feedback to be able to help you target the users and audiences that you want. And that conflict is like, I think that's the heart of the issue with SKA network. And what we did is basically use predictive analytics to take 1 day or 2 days of data and be able to project that data into the future in terms of like 30 days, sometimes even more, be able to measure things much more correctly and really still be able to do some optimizations with our partners. And and we've been able to really solve some of the issues to some extent. Obviously, it's until probabilistic matching is here, then that solution, SKA network as a whole, is a patch for some partners. But really, when Apple says that it means to make probabilistic go away, then we need to take that seriously, and we need to approach it as best we can and really get an advantage on buying traffic there.
Amazing. I appreciate it, Avital. Netta, we'll move to you. I know, and we have heard kind of a lot of noises in the industry from Meta, from Google, and in general around the move into using MMM models, media or marketing mix models, as part of the strategy for game developers. I would love to get your take around, do you think it could be applicable for gaming companies?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I do believe it's applicable to gaming companies. So, if we consider the widely known MMM approach that has been used for more than 50 years by CPG advertisers and so on, then probably not. But that's not the MMM we've seen emerging over that last few years, and definitely not the MMM that is being used in gaming. So the traditional MMM, while fit for purpose and relevant for traditional companies, was quite slow, so about 3 to 6 months for results, handmade, leading to analyst bias. It was very high level and updated maybe every 6 to 12 months, quarterly if they were lucky. And the granularity of results and the frequency with which they were delivered didn't make them ideal for gaming. So this is what we know from the past. But we're seeing a shift in the last few years. We have a new wave of MMM has emerged that is highly automated, more granular, and with much greater frequency than before. So the time to insight has reduced to days and weeks instead of months, allowing advertisers to make changes faster in order to drive return on ad set. And it's also far more accessible than it once was. It had a very high entry cost with third parties working with the world's biggest advertisers. And now there are far more options than before. So with new entrants to the third parties ecosystem, providing SaaS platforms, building models alongside advertisers with the goal of having them take it over, other delivering platforms similar to an MMP, but with incremental results in a close to real-time frequency. And then there are other solutions that are democratizing the industry with open source approaches. The data science team can use as a platform to build an in-house solution, like, for example, Meta's Project Robin. And then, of course, other third parties from our gaming ecosystem, like Pecan and other MMPs and so on, they're all recognizing the potential of MMM and exploring their own solutions to support their advertisers. So from what I see in Facebook gaming, we're talking to a lot of advertisers today, all with varying approaches to tackling this. We have a mix of advertisers today engaging with third parties, trying to learn from their expertise, and partnering to solve this challenge together. And we have others who are facing the challenge head-on, building their own solutions, using existing tools as a platform, and adapting it for their business or building it from scratch by themselves. So we see different approaches, but definitely it can be suitable for gaming companies today. And let's move to the next slide and see. So here we can see actually, if we're looking on these three pillars of measurement, attribution, experiments, and MMM, we see that they're all different and certainly not all equal. They each have strengths. They don't exist in the others. And if each of which can deliver real value for gaming advertisers. Not one of them is perfect, but they're all useful. So we believe actually that advertisers should combine all the three today. So for example, if we think about attribution, it's incredibly detailed and granular. While it might lag behind other approaches in terms of accuracy, it offers a real-time view of performance across all digital platforms, and not something we see elsewhere. Experiments, while not quick and usually focusing on a single channel at a time, demand excellent planning and execution, but the payoff is they actually offering the gold standard of accuracy to inform truly impactful and important strategic business decisions. And then the MMM we're talking about. So if we consider MMM something new for most of gaming advertisers, it still delivers incremental measurement, looking also at the full suite of marketing channels. And due to its aggregate methodology, it is actually resilient to any future ecosystem changes, and it's future-proofed. So as I said, we believe gaming advertisers should adopt this three measurement approach together to have like the best measurement picture they can have today.
Amazing. Thank you, Neta. By the way, I love the slide and I already copied it to all of my decks. So thank you. Joking. Cool. Before we move into the next topic, I would love to share with you some kind of a framework we developed for game developers to really understand how they could benefit from predictive analytics to kind of improve their games. We usually focus around the three pillars, so user acquisition, monetization, and retention. And in each one of those pillars, we have different use cases that are there to kind of accommodate to a specific need for the game. So depending on kind of where a company sees the biggest challenge for them, if it's on the acquisition side or the retention or the monetization, we recommend to go over kind of the different use cases in each one of those pillars and trying to integrate them into their work, because we believe, and we also seen it, to create improvements, dramatic improvements in a very short time. So from this, we're gonna move to our next section that will focus around user acquisition. Slava, back to you. We've seen many game developers that are using short-term ROI to measure the quality of their campaigns. Should they be using predictive lifetime value?
Yes. No, but in seriousness, I think this is a very complex topic. Obviously, the answer is yes, right? But there are layers to it. I think when we address this question, there are two things we need to address. First is how they target, which window are they using to target with their respective campaigns, either it's Google or Meta or TikTok or whatever it is. And the second thing is how they measure internally, how they translate the targeting, whether it's 7-day, 14-day to lifetime, right? Because this is very important. So I think answering the first question, and again, I'm speaking from a Google position, but obviously Neta can elaborate later about Facebook, Meta, sorry. And from my perspective, in terms of targeting, it's always easier, and it's always easier both for the companies and for the algorithm to kind of look at the shorter term, right? If you do TROAS, the Google ROAS campaigns, then you choose 7 days, you choose 14 days. It's way more flexible. It's way easier to kind of know what you expect and you want to get. So in that sense, it's good, right? Like you're setting the campaigns, this is what the algorithm wants, and you're doing that, and it should work. But then you're getting your numbers. You're getting the 7-day ROAS number or the 14-day ROAS number. And obviously, in most of the categories, let's exclude hyper-casual from this discussion, it doesn't show you 100% or above. So obviously, at some point, you need to go to 100% or above. And in this point, the predictive analytics and the PLTV models have to be as precise as you can possibly build them. Because if you don't build them precisely, there can be two problems. One is an obvious problem, right? You're expecting your cohort to return the money and to be ROI positive, I don't know, in half a year or 9 months or whatever, and then it just doesn't happen. And then you kind of, you should adjust your models, but you should also adjust your marketing strategy because you're buying users that you're spending X amounts of dollars on them, but they're not returning these X amount of dollars in the Y amount of time that you expected. So this is the obvious problem. There's the other problem in which the situation looks better than you expected. And we've seen this a lot during COVID, right? A lot of companies acquired users and the numbers looked really good. And sometimes they converted so fast that eventually the companies come and say, okay, like we bought amazing users, but it's also a problem, right? Because you bought amazing users in a certain period, but your LTV was not accurate and it actually presented lower numbers. So why didn't you buy more? Why didn't you grow faster in this time of explosion, in the time when the market was hot, and the time when your user acquisition was working really well? And now this is not the situation. So now you kind of start reacting and buying more, but now the times is changed, right? So if you would predict the users better and you would predict that they will return better amount of revenue on your investment, then you should have just invested more, grow faster, and maybe now the moment is lost. So I think from both these perspectives, when you look at it, the more accurate your predictive analytics is, the more accurate your models for PLTV are, the more efficient you can do your user acquisition, your marketing, every channel, right? It's not only Google, it's every channel. You should just align your marketing with the PLTV models. You shouldn't target the PLTV models because again, every system requires something else. You can, right? But it's not a must, but it is a must to know what you're getting at the end of the road.
I totally agree. Like we've seen many companies that I believe are too conservative in their approach for budgeting. So
yeah,
+1 to that. Neta, would love to get your take around how can we use predictive analytics to improve the efficiency of our acquisition campaigns?
Sure. So as we know, there are less and less signals available these days. So actually with prediction analytics, advertisers can utilize their own data and the demand is even higher for it today, as we all know. So we can use, like discussed now, events like lifetime value, LTV. By the way, we also have a great LTV testing playbook in Meta that advertiser can use with some best practices and so on. And also the way I see it in Meta, so we have like a few different solutions to help advertisers to achieve their LTV goals and to get more valuable users actually through different marketing mechanisms in order to run, as you said, more efficient campaigns. So one thing is when we're looking on targeting, we have the lookalike mechanism. I also saw one of the questions around it. So actually advertiser can build their audience based on high value users using their LTV and analytics models. So this is very important to try to acquire high value users. Another thing is what you call custom event optimization or CEO methods. So this actually enable advertisers to use their own custom events from their predictive models or any event to optimize their campaigns. So this can also help, of course, more efficient campaigns. And another thing is when we're talking about bidding strategies. So we have actually different bidding options which advertiser can use their LTV inside these bidding options like minimum ROAS, return on ad set, manual bid with bidding cap. So advertiser can set up the return on ad set target or bidding cap using their own LTV models. So these are all options to leverage modeling and predictive analytics. Also, it's worth to mention that sometimes predictive events are in use by the product team, but unfortunately the marketing team is less involved on it. And as attribution is not the same like before, and we have less signals today, the marketing team should also be more involved and get the support with predictive events internally or by third-party support, which also can be a great option. And it will help them to run more efficient campaigns. So this is what we see today.
Amazing. Okay, Evyatar, would love to get your take around how predictive LTV could help companies grow and your take in kind of your position at SciPlay.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, predictive lifetime value or just evaluating future value of users, it relates to a very hot topic right now. It's marketing efficiency, I think. So I can tell you that from a game developer perspective that has multiple games that generate actual money and they're profitable, then we often find ourselves in a situation where we need to allocate budget in a very efficient way. And doing that based on like short-term performance or historical data really proves to be inefficient, especially because games and environment around games tend to change so much. I mean, there's a new economy being written, and it's in production like 30% of the users, and it already changes the ROI, and you find out 3 or 4 months later then that your growth has shrinked because of that, because it just inflated the short-term ROI. So those things happen, and the better we are at calculating it and reacting faster to big changes like that, then it makes our job much more efficient, and we're able to get better margins and just spend our money much wiser. I mean, that's what we use with Pecan's help. That's what we do with SciPlay. We mostly use it for budget allocation and budgeting decisions. It also helps a lot when you get a new game and you're playing kind of a guessing game when you try to set a business goal, what that game needs to bring to the table, and what type of goal, what are the milestones for that game, and using predictive lifetime value or just being able to evaluate the future value of each user much better, or even entire cohorts. It helps a lot when you decide on what direction that game needs to take, and whether you need to, like Slava said, spend more or spend less, or get that game back into the garage and make some changes on it. That's really the way we use PLTV, and it really makes a difference because that tiny gap that you manage to close and get a decision faster, it it's really meaningful in terms of like revenue impact. Really makes it better. And we're constantly striving to really improve our models and our forecasting tools and getting that into more granular levels, whether it's a user level forecast or a campaign level forecast or a source level or whatever, because we really believe that reacting faster makes us save money, be more efficient, and really spending the next dollar in the best possible way. And that's how our take on PLTV and the way we use it.
Love it. Amazing. Slava, would love to hear kind of where we've seen that predictive events were helping in optimizing campaigns. I know we had an interesting story together, so I would love to get your take.
Should I tell the story?
I would appreciate it.
Yeah. I think, just to relate for a second to what Eviatar said, I think this is the key word for the whole kind of discussion here, the marketing efficiency, right? This is kind of the whole subject we're discussing and how together for marketing efficiency, and considering the changes, considering the things that we can do or can do, this is a good word. So I'll start using it more. Regarding the events, I think that whenever we say PLTV events or using the PLTV events or customized events to do something, the first thing that comes to mind is something like very, very big, right? It's something that let's use it to predict the PLTV of the user, create an event from it, and put it in whatever network we're using at the moment, and then kind of start targeting it. But the case you mentioned, which was very, very, very interesting case, shows that we can use it in many ways, right? We shouldn't always look at it the most like sophisticated and the biggest thing. Sometimes we have very specific APIs which we need to hit, and sometimes these events can really help us. And this is exactly the case you mentioned that we created in Google. Obviously, you guys created it in Pecan in collaboration with Google and collaboration with a very, very big social casino client. And in this case, we had a very, very specific API, which wasn't easy one, right? We wanted to bring new players to the game, considering that the game is very mature, a very mature game that's in the market for a long time, and a lot of users already saw it. Some played it in 2017, 15, 18, whatever. We wanted only the users, and we wanted users to reach day 7. Again, part of the strategy, part of the KPIs that are not exactly the ROI classic APIs, but we encountered a problem. We couldn't use events that we had, and the event for day 7, the straightforward event, day 7 retention was too long. So the system needed something quicker. So the prediction event you created, guys, was really helpful. We basically were able to recognize and predict, right? This is the word. We're able to predict the day 7 retention users, the higher end of them, plus which one of them is new one, in a very short time. So we used this event, and basically the results of the campaign that we ran, I think the number was increase of 45% in day 7 retention. And I'm sure you remember the exact number, but this is the number I have in my head, versus other campaigns that try to achieve the same goal. So again, this was a big success. Correct me on the number if I'm mistaken here, but I think this was it.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So I remember 45% increase in day 7 retention for this company, for this game. Again, very big game, very mature company. Tremendous results. We're still using these campaigns there. And I think that just shows you that sometimes it's the specific cases, it's the specific APIs that you can go and kind of try to conquer using these kind of predictive analytics and customized events. It shouldn't always be about bringing the most revenue in day 7 or lifetime or whatever. It's sometimes like the goals that are more soft, right? And it still can achieve them. And a lot of companies have these goals, the DAO goals, the volume goals, the retention goals, the stickiness goals, whatever. So you can use these events to really kind of conquer these targets too.
Perfect. Now, I know we don't have a lot of time or any time, but I don't want to miss on the piece of retention. which we all know very critical to a gaming developer. So Evyatar was kind enough to share some of the work that SciPlay were doing using predictive analytics as part of their retention modeling. So Evyatar, I would love you if you can kind of take us through what you've done and how helpful it was.
Yeah, sure, of course. So like every good solution, it starts with a big headache or a big problem. And it's retargeting or retention marketing as a whole. So yeah, we do it. A lot of other companies do it. And I think there's like a common knowledge that the sooner you get a lapsed user and you show him content and you get him back into your game, the better. For most cases, it's true. And there's also another issue with that, and the sooner you target a lapsed user, you usually bring in additional users that would have returned anyways, naturally. And those users skew the results by a ton. So there's really this type of, it's like a constant conflict where you want to target the users at the best possible timing to increase your revenue potential, but at the same time, you don't want to spend a lot of money on bringing the wrong users or getting credit for them. So there is this constant conflict that you need to solve. And what we did together with Pecan is that we wanted to create an event, and we wanted to be able to send it to all our partners and everything. And in that event, we would say, what is the likelihood of a user that haven't returned within the last 24 hours for him to return within X amount of days? And we keep updating that event every time. And we started creating, I'd say it's an extra layer of attribution system where we know when to give credit to ourselves or not. And we're also able to start teaching the partners what's a good user and what's a bad user, because part of the biggest problem here is that when you target recently lapsed users, is that you also give a lot of credit, and you kind of give the partners the treat for the wrong user, because the users that have the highest CVR or CTR are usually the users who are that has the highest quality, and it's usually the users that partners tend to bring in and get credit for, and those are probably the users that would have returned naturally. So all the optimization effort and targeting effort goes towards the wrong users. So it's really the worst possible way to spend your money for retargeting. So what we did is a lot of work, and then we managed to do an integration with Adjust and everything, and really build that attribution system, and we're able to really improve our measurement capabilities in terms of retargeting, and we're really able to measure correctly what the real revenue impact and the actual incrementality for doing retargeting is for us. And it really helped us capitalize on that specific channel or the timing when we want to reach that user. So that's pretty much the way we went with it. And again, like any good model or any good solution that involves predictions, it's a work in progress. You're always trying to improve. So there's a lot of ongoing work on it. It never ends. It's not one-time solution. So, and privacy stuff also ruins everything. Once in a while, you need to find a new solution. So that's what we did for retargeting, and it works great for now, anyways.
Always optimistic, Evyatar. One of the most innovative ways our churn prediction models were used, and I have to say, working with you, Evyatar, every day is a new lesson, a new a new model that we can build. So it's always exciting. Cool. For the last question, Neta, we'll move back to you to get your kind of view of how predictive churn could be relevant for retargeting campaigns?
Sure. So similar to like what Avitar just discussed about lapsed user and so on. So we see sometimes a reactive approach for retargeting without using any like predictive model and so on. And predictive modeling and specifically churn models can help to run more efficient campaigns for retargeting and actually target the users, from the right targeting, the right users, at the right time with the right offer, instead of targeting the wrong users or at the wrong point of time and so on. So users that will engage anyway and come back to the game. So also you can build different profiles and define different offers for different audience using churn model. And of course, we can run also experiments with Meta's incrementality solution or any other incrementality solution to check the churn model and even improve it and improve performance. So in general, I can say that actually using churn models can help you to improve your targeting and your efficiency with retargeting campaigns.
Amazing. Whew. That's a wrap for our panel, our amazing panel. And this is our time to move to the audience, to learn and to hear if there's any questions from the people here. So if you
I'll jump in real quick to run through how everything works, just remind everyone real quick. So before we begin with today's Q&A, please direct your attention to our webinar survey available on the right of the presentation window. If you close the survey, you can reopen that widget by clicking the icon along the bottom of your screen. And thanks once again for filling out that feedback form. The participation in the survey allows us to better serve you. So moving on to the question and answer portion of our event. As a reminder, to participate in the Q&A, just type your question in the text box located to the right of the presentation window, or click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. If we're not able to answer all submitted questions during today's webinar, we'll be sure to share them with our speakers who can then reply to you offline. So moving on to our first question here from the list, wants to know, are your outputs specific to the user in question?
Okay. So except to MMM, which is a model that is aggregated on usually the channel, the platform, the game, of course, all the models that we develop at Pecan are based on the user level, which we can be even more accurate. It could even be on the install level, so a user could come back more and more. We're doing so because once we build the models in the kind of the smallest Lego pieces possible, we can then aggregate the data to the relevant level if you want to see the data on a campaign, on an ad, or a channel level. So we do recommend to work on the user level. Maybe like from your point of view, should it be on the user level? Should it be on a different level?
So it's a tough question. I mean, it depends on what your goal is. Really hard to answer that. I mean, a user level has several strengths. The disadvantage on using like deeper granularity, from our experience anyways, is that you miss a lot of, you tend to be less accurate, and the way to be more accurate. So when you talk about budget allocation, you can go on you can get on a like wider cohorts and take like entire sources and stuff like that. But when you do user level, it's mostly about optimizing towards different campaigns, which we just don't do at the moment. So yeah, I don't have any real answers for that. Sorry, it's really I mean, it's something that we constantly test and see what works.
We can move on to the next question here. There were a couple that came in that were privacy themed, so we'll just grab one here. Is the predictive analytics used for user acquisition mainly to create lookalike user cohorts post-IDFA?
I can start by saying it's one use case, but we've seen multiple and very different use cases for user acquisition, from optimizing campaigns on Meta, on Google, to using predictive models to have a better understanding of the quality of your users. And of course, to using, as referred to in the question, using those predictive models as part of the IDFA conversion schema to get a better understanding of the performance of the user. Because as we know at Scan, if you're using the conversion value as it meant with only purchase events, for a gaming developer, you're probably going to miss a signal. You're gonna lose signals on 97 to 98% of your users. So this is why it is very critical to make sure that you're integrating events, and we recommend predictive events as part of the conversion schema. Netta, do you have maybe something something else that you want to add on this one?
So I totally agree, with what you said. We see a lot of use for, as I mentioned before, the lookalike also, and targeting, but also for optimizing campaign using the custom event optimization, which is also something that we see advertisers are using more and more and testing it these days. Different options like bidding, so also they can use the events in their bidding strategies, and agree with the last point you mentioned. Just wanted to add that yes, we see some advertisers that even designing the scan and conversion schema, which we know it's a complex analytics exercise. So they're using predictive events to identify better signals for optimizations and so on. So I think these are the main uses I see from our side.
Fantastic. Sounds great. We'll move on to the next question here. Another one from chat. What are the most common predictive events that you see used?
Interesting. So the most common, I'm not sure I 100% understand the question, so I'll give the two possibilities. One is what data we use to build our predictive events or the predictive models, and the second thing, how we're using those predictive models as events. So say in terms of the best predictors for users' behavior is usually around the user session, login, activity data, of course, game data as well, and transactional data, things like purchase or any other monetization event that could happen in the game. So those are usually the most critical events to integrate in the model. This is the must-have. Of course, the more we'll get, things like CRM, support, marketing, communication, everything that we can get on top of that could improve the quality of the model. In terms of how to use the predictive models as events that will be sent, I would say the most common is around the conversion likelihood, finding users that are most likely to convert to paying users, and then using those events to feed the different marketing channels to improve the performance. I think it refers to the example that Slava mentioned before.
Cool. All right, sounds great. And we are running pretty short on time, so I'm going to have to push on here. So that is all the time we have for questions today. Thank you to our speakers today. Game developer, appreciate your time and incredible expertise on today's topic. A very data-packed presentation, an enjoyable one to moderate. So thank you to our sponsor, Pecan, as well as everyone in the audience. We appreciate your attendance and participation. Within the next 24 hours, you will receive a personalized follow-up email with details and a link to today's presentation on demand. Please feel free to invite your colleagues and peers who may not have been able to listen to the event to watch that on-demand presentation. The webinar is copyright Informa. The presentation materials are owned or copyrighted by Game Developer and Pecan, and the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and their opinions. On behalf of our guests today, and our sponsor, Pecan, I'm Melissa McLeod, and thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.